Here we go. It's Movie Reviews and More. It's Friday, October 10th. And today's a good day. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
I'd say a lot's an understatement, Brian.
I know. Why don't you introduce your friend?
Oh, well, for those of you that don't remember, I'm Debbie Lynn Elias, Movie Shark DeBloor. Joining here with Brian, who's going to take a nap for most of today, I think. I am so thrilled with the one guest that we have on today. I'm thrilled with Kayla too, but I'm very thrilled to have my friend Trevor Baierl here. He is going to talk about later on in the program. He's going to talk about his documentary. He is a first-time filmmaker. He has extensive television experience, though. You all may know a little show called The Wahlburgers. Well, this is one of the brains behind it. But Trevor is going to talk about making his documentary and also getting into Laughlin Film Festival, where the documentary will have its world premiere next week.
And I'm going to introduce Kayla really quick. Kayla Janssen. Spell your last name, because this is spelled different.
It's Janssen. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's Janssen. No, it's okay. I tried to, it would be Kayla Janssen here. I say Janssen to try to incorporate
I like
that.
Janssen.
Janssen? Yeah. You like that?
Right.
It's like Scarlett Johansson, however you want to say it. Kayla
I like
Janssen.
that. And you're a dancer?
Yes, I'm a dancer, originally from Belgium. Been here in LA for about a year. Just had my 1-year anniversary 2 weeks ago. And yeah, living the dream.
Good for you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yes.
Of course, I want to know if it's a dream or a nightmare, but we will talk about that later. But as we always do on Fridays, let's jump right into what's opening at the theater this week.
Because there's a lot of movies this week.
There are 25 films opening in theaters, be it in limited release, wide release, and I cherry-picked some really interesting and really good films for you this week, starting with, you gotta have a Disney film, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. This, based on the book that came out by Judith Voist in 1972. This was a 32-page book, a worldwide bestseller. It was, hilarious. We had it in the Elias household.
Did you really?
Came out in 72. My sister was 6 years younger than me, so, oh yes, I have known of this book for many decades now. So, and just imagine a kid that's obsessed with Australia, has a family, but in his life, everything always goes wrong, and his family doesn't get it. So then on his birthday, he makes a wish. Just once. He wants his family to know what a really terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day is.
And hence the title.
And hence the title. I always wondered it was a very visual book, the whole idea of calamities befalling families and siblings and all the trouble you can get into. How do you turn that into a film? Finally, it's been done. Director Miguel Arteta and Rob Lieber wrote the screenplay, turned it into a feature-length film, and it is adorable. It is a wonderful family film. It is hilarious. Great cast. We got Jennifer Gardner, who is now... She's really hit her stride with mother roles. We saw her a couple years ago in The Odd Life of Timothy Green, where she played somebody who so desperately wanted to be a mother and then wanted to be perfect. Well, here she's a mother, and no matter what happens, she can walk around with spit up on her or magic marker on her, and, oh yeah, okay, it's just another day. We'll get by. Steve Carell plays Dad, an out-of-work aerospace engineer, looking for work but being Mr. Mom in the meantime. You've got siblings that round out the cast, the most notable of which is Ed Oxenbould, who we are seeing for the first time in the United States. Ironically, he is from Australia.
And he love my Aussie friends.
And he plays our title character of Alexander with all of his disasters. I had a chance to talk to Ed in a one-on-one and find out what he thought about this, how he went about the process, because he Skyped his interview.
Oh,
he
interesting.
Skyped his audition and interview for this film. So I think Brian has the cue here for Ed Oxenbould talking about Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
I got the whole script and I read it, it was quite different actually. But I knew that Jen and Steve were attached, and I was like, these are so perfect. And the people who they cast as Emily and Anthony, it's just a great ensemble piece. And I love how they had people coming in just doing little roles. You know, we had Megan Mullally, Jennifer Coolidge, Dick Van Dyke, and they all came in and did their little parts, which was really cool. I just love the fact that it was a big cast, shot in heaps of different locations, big stunts. It was just very big.
Yes, Ed made it very clear he likes things very big, which is why he jumped from Alexander, and we'll be talking about it, I'm sure, in months to come, all the way to Philadelphia, so he could try some very large cheesesteaks, soft pretzels, and hoagies while he was filming M. Night Shyamalan's next film. Ooh. So we will be hearing more from Ed in the future. But another film opening in theaters today that is just, I'm passionate about. Not the greatest film in the world, but it's terrific eye candy on so many levels and on a story level. Dracula Untold. Universal is going back to its horror roots, reinvigorating the Dracula franchise. Luke Evans in the title role. Dominic Cooper plays his arch rival. Directed by Gary Shore, first-time director. Written by Matt Sazama and Burke Sharpless. This is epic. It's on a grand scale, grand scope. It's an origin story of Dracula we haven't heard before. And it incorporates a lot of history going into the life of Prince Vlad, a.k.a. Vlad the Impaler. Mm-hmm. And we see Vlad as a father, as a husband, as a man who loves his people and cares about his people. And this is the story of how he became Dracula and possessed by evil, and it was done out of love.
And you really like this movie.
I love this movie. A lot of special effects in terms of the evil dominions and bats and darkness and lightning and thunder, and it's spectacular. On a grand scale of battles, there's some really interesting camera work and CGI work done with a lot of the hand-to-hand combat of the day. And it's balanced with John Schwartzman is the cinematographer. And he does this beautiful job of balancing light and dark and creating a subtextual metaphor of the visuals, particularly with these golden tones and subtle reds and soft candlelit moments when Vlad and his family are together, as opposed to the sharp, really, polished, stylized combat scenes or when making use of great negative space and darkness in the cave, the bat cave, shall we say, of where evil comes, from where it comes. Superb, outstanding. It is fun, pure entertainment to watch.
And there's a lot of people looking forward to this too, obviously. So,
well, especially since this isn't a part of the Dracula history we've never heard.
Yep.
So it varies away from the Mary Shelley.
It goes, we don't have Bram Stoker. It's predicated upon a lot of Stoker's characters, but Stoker went back in history to actual writings on the history of Vlad and the principality of within Transylvania, Wallachia, I think is how it's pronounced. But we find out about, people don't know that Vlad had 2 wives. His first wife nobody knew anything about. His second wife basically raised his son. And this film, it opens with Vlad's son telling the story of his father, so it's bookended like a storybook.
Oh, wow. And
it's open-ended for a sequel, people. So my fingers crossed, and who doesn't want to see Luke Evans? Let's face it. Now, a powerful, powerful film based on true events here in the United States, started here in California. Kill the Messenger.
Oh, wonderful film.
This is a political thriller a la All the President's Men. It's taken a while for this to come to fruition. Jeremy Renner is producer and stars as investigative reporter for the Mercury News, San Jose Mercury News, Gary Webb. And what Webb actually did, he broke the story of the crack cocaine being brought into the U.S. in the 80s with the CIA's knowledge, and money was being used for illegal funding of Nicaraguan Contras. And this is what opened up the whole can of worms in Washington at that point. And, of course, the cans have just been opening ever since on so many levels. the film speaks very heavily to news gathering, journalistic responsibility and ethics, something that you know, Brian, I am very passionate about.
Yeah.
And the need for investigative news today.
Something we're missing for sure.
Yeah.
Something we're missing for sure.
It's an excellent movie. I mean, we talked about this so long ago, but continue, because you got a clip coming up.
I've got a couple clips here. The first clip we're going to hear, Jeremy Renner, I asked him about, this is the first time he's produced anything.
Yep.
So I asked him about stepping in and putting on that producer's hat.
Yeah, that's. I mean, ultimately, once we started, rolling celluloid, I can't really do a whole lot because I was in pretty much every frame on the producer side. So I mean, it was hard enough for me to even watch dailies. But as far as the casting and getting Michael and assembling the team, essentially, if you will, was my hands-on part of it, and making phone calls and begging people to come in and do a part, and whether it's Rosemary all the way down to Ray Liotta, to offer to wash their cars or do their laundry for a year or something. Like, please just come in for a day and do this, and it ended up being like they loved the script so much, so wanted to work together wherever it was, and I was very blessed with the cast I got. But that was pretty much my experience as a producer.
Well, and Jeremy mentions his cast. His cast is phenomenal. You've got Andy Garcia. You've got Oliver Platt, who plays the publisher of the newspaper that Gary writes for. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is his editor. And it's typical of editors that I know, one that Trevor knows as well. Very waffly, very wishy-washy. If it works for them, that's great. If it doesn't work for them, they'll throw you under the bus, and they don't care.
We got your back until we don't got your back.
Ray Liotta, phenomenal. Just one scene, iconic performance when you see it. Robert Patrick, Paz Vega, Barry Pepper, who is always such a presence on screen, and Michael Sheen even. Written by Peter Landesman, based on Gary Webb's book series Dark Alliance, which was his whole series of articles on this whole unfolding investigation. And as many people may know, he received a Pulitzer, but in the time that they said you're getting the Pulitzer to the time that he was awarded the Pulitzer, everybody threw him under the bus trying to rip apart everything that he had been reporting. Ultimately, though, he was vindicated. Unfortunately, life was never the same for him. But Jeremy also talked about the script and how everything came together, and so let's hear what he had to say about that. We're waiting. Our clip is coming.
I'm so sorry. I'm running the Twitter page for Adrenaline Radio also. Tasking back here. I apologize.
Ultimately, I mean, it came by a Landesman script, and then I was shooting the Avengers at the time, and I read it, and I'm like, wow, this is great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I love that it's a true story. That's why I think it needed to be on the big screen, because it's important. I don't think just doing a movie because it's important, it sounds sort of kind of, I don't know, so snobby. Like, oh, it's an important movie, you got to do it. But there's also a great character, a great world. I love the idea of being in a journalist world. And then the story, and the ripple effect of the story. And then, like, hold on a second. This happened around the corner from where I grew up. I don't know anything about this. And I thought, wow, the only, like, real downstream effect of this, I even knew this even existed, was auditioning for a PSA for This Is Your Brain on Drugs campaign. The war on drugs was like the 2 eggs in the frying pan, and that just tore the room apart. I remember that was like 1992, 93 when I first moved to LA. And that was my only sort of downstream of this even happening. So I'm like, you know what? That's why I started doing investigating on it and digging in more and talking to Landesman and then reading the book by Nick Shue, and I said, yeah, man, I think I got to do this. It's got to be on the big screen.
And on the big screen it is, and it is nationwide today. It's a very dense story. It is very much a pay attention movie. Do not go out to dinner and have a few drinks and then go watch.
It's very gripping. It's an excellent movie.
It is superb. And, hand in hand, Sean Bobbitt is also the cinematographer on it. And he is somebody that I dearly admire his work. It's he shot on film to get the texture of the era, and he also did a very unobtrusive handheld in the styling that works really well, and it captures the urgency and the intricacies of digging out investigative information as a reporter. Good part is you can actually go and you can find online at Amazon and bookstores the original source material, Dark Alliance by Gary Webb, or Kill the Messenger, a book by Nick Shaw that was a precursor on which in which Peter Landesman wrote the screenplay. So, and all of that goes much deeper into...
And Peter's a very interesting person to talk to also.
Peter is fascinating. I mean, Peter is also responsible for Parkland, which was just out within the past year. And he also wrote a film some years back with Kevin Kline called Trade, about sex trafficking from Mexico into the United States. Wow. So he always picks these hot button topics, and he really gets a good handle on them and creates indelible stories, indelible characters. And the fact that, Gary Webb left a legacy, but he is no longer with us, but he showed us what journalistic responsibility is. And I think that this film, Jeremy as a producer and everybody with him, it's testament to Gary Webb and to Jeremy's determination to get this film made.
Well, it's great to find that those true stories that are out there that haven't been told. And then if they can stay true and really shed light on what really happened that maybe most of us don't know about.
And the fact that he lived right around the corner from him.
Yeah. And speaking of true stories, we've got another one that has been turned into a big screen event, One Chance. This is a film where my heart laughed, it wept, it smiled, it soared with every frame, every note. It is the story of, and it was a viral sensation, Paul Potts, the amateur opera singer who was discovered by Simon Cowell on Britain's Got Talent. David Frankel directs. Frankel is probably best known for directing The Devil Wears Prada. This is anything but The Devil Wears Prada. This is happy, this is joyous, it celebrates life, it celebrates second chances, determination, grit, very happy, upbeat. But it stars James Corden, who is going to be brightening up our nights soon as he takes over The Late Late Show, replacing Craig Ferguson. So he's also he was just seen in the movie Begin Again with Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. I mean, he's just on a roll, and James Corden is one of those guys on screen. He's like a teddy bear. You just want to hug him. You just want to smile. And he is just glorious. Absolutely glorious. Julie Walters plays his mom, and she is hysterical. And Colm Meaney plays his dad, and it's something you don't expect from, the man who ran the transporter in the Enterprise. You just... But it is a wonderful film. The music is absolutely stunning.
See, I didn't even know about that, but I knew, I remember him talking about that a couple of years ago. And I'm like, wow, because Simon just knows how to pick these people.
He sure does. And they actually used some of the actual footage of the judges of Simon from the Britain's Got Talent, segments. Although we've got James, who's actually acting. But absolutely, it's a lovely, lovely film, and you will leave the theater smiling.
So when it comes to the music, is James singing?
No.
Or okay, no. So it's actually Paul.
It's Paul
fantastic.
Singing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, great.
Is Simon Cowell underrated in a way?
I think he is.
I don't think he is. I think he gets his due.
I don't think he gets enough of his due. I really don't. I think that
I do.
I think Simon, that he's been dissed more than he should be and not given enough credit for some of the things that he has done. And not just in finding talent, but in production and the behind-the-scenes aspect.
See, that's the Simon that I think of and the Simon that I know. But if you're coming from America's Got Talent, you're like, okay, this is Simon the judge, and he's not nice. Well, he's the totally opposite of that.
He's always right. Whenever you see,
Absolutely.
whenever he's criticizing
he's
someone,
been wrong
he's
once.
always right.
Once that I know of. That was it. That was Houston, who ended up going on and winning an Oscar.
It's not Whitney.
No. Jennifer.
Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
Hudson,
Yeah, that's the only time he's ever been wrong.
True, yeah.
But I mean, with a reality TV background, Trevor, I mean, do you know about the producing things?
Well, it's see, that's the tough part, is that it's great when you can, because I've done competition shows, and when you have the right judges and they can control it and make the right choices, but you have to find the right judge that has the charisma on camera that can carry the show also, and no talent. I worked with Missy Elliott and some of her crew, and again, they were fantastic. And we've had people, I don't know if you know Yellow Wolf.
Oh, yeah.
He broke through. He got eliminated way early on the show I did because he wasn't ready yet, and now he's so polished and amazing, and he's fantastic. And the girl that won, Jessica Betts, she's got an incredible voice, and she's still finding her way through it all. But those are tough things to find, because you have to find all those pieces that go together in marketability, talent, the dedication, and are you willing to put in the work? Because there are so many talented people out there that aren't willing to put in the work, so they're never going to make it.
Exactly.
And somebody can outwork you with less talent and make a big splash.
Yeah, there's a quote out there that hard work will always beat talent when talent gets too lazy. Which I'm a big believer in.
Anybody that survives in this business is a believer in that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Well, we've got a few more films to talk about here. One of them, fascinating film, Automata. And have you seen this one
No,
yet?
I saw it. I saw it a while ago, but again, it's almost like it's disappeared. But again, up to you, keeping everything going.
But written and directed by Gabe Ibanez. I actually talked to him. I didn't, because we were talking from Spain and the connection wasn't that good. We don't have any sound bites from Gabe today. But the film is just absolutely fascinating. We are in an apocalyptic world, of course, but this tackles the issue of technological singularity. And this is a theory that goes back to the 50s, when robotics and artificial intelligence match human intelligence. And what Gabe does with Automata, he addresses the question of what happens when the artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence and the capabilities of what human intelligence can program the artificial intelligence to do. It is very profound. Technically, it is thrilling to watch. He creates two very distinct worlds, a radiation contaminated world of the city, where everybody is protected. They're inside, there's nothing left, it's dark, it's always rainy. It's very Blade Runner. Imagery is showcased as holograms on the dark black night sky. Antonio, and the other world is a desert wasteland that nobody knows what lies there. Antonio Banderas plays an insurance investigator. Something is going wrong with robots, because robots are hired. They're like the Jetsons. You hire, like Rosie the maid. You get a robot as a maid. You get a robot as a caregiver. You get a robot as a cook. But something is happening, and there are defects, or they're not obeying commands, and protocols that are set in place are not working. And he sees a pattern developing, and something's wrong, and he wants to investigate. Starts out as a simple insurance claim for a defective robot, turns into so much more. Melanie Griffith
I forgot that she was in it.
She is in the film.
Wow.
I do believe this is the last film that they worked on together before the separation or split. She has a dual role. She plays a scientist, a robotic scientist. She also voices a robot named Cleo. And I have to say, her voice work here is one of the best performances of her career. And it harkens back to the sweetness and purity that she brought in this little film called Milk Money with Ed Harris years ago.
Wow.
Cleo is the purest essence of humanity and has the ability to articulate verbally and with tacit observation. Melanie finds that timbre within her voice to have the wide-eyed wonder of a child as Cleo starts gaining more intelligence than her initial programming. It's an interesting journey. It's interesting discussion on humanity, on technology. The icing on the cake, it's really a sci-fi noir, and I just love it. But the icing on the cake is the score. It's a very Baroque chorale score. Very,
that's right. It did stand out.
It's a symphonic chamber music with a little bit of synthesized piano thrown in there as a balance. So you get this morality, humanity sense against technology. So well constructed. Not for everybody, but definitely worth a look.
See, I have a Roomba, and I sometimes worry that thing's chasing me around the house.
Oh.
Interesting. Here's our cue. This is Movie Reviews and More live on Adrenaline Radio. We'll be right back, and Debbie will finish up with a couple other things. She's got a couple of the interesting movies with special people she got a chance to talk to.
That's right.
We'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Studio hotline number, just in case, 800-405-6425. 1-800-405-6425. This one I look forward to seeing because I didn't get a chance to see, because what happens when they have a lot of screenings, we're in different places at different times, and then we're surprised when we do run into each other.
Well, this film is a very special documentary. I Am Ali. This is a documentary on the one and only Muhammad Ali, the greatest, done by a British filmmaker, Claire Lewins, who readily admits she knew nothing about boxing when she took on this project. She was contacted by Jean Gilroy, who has been Ali's longtime business manager, and Claire is known for doing other biopics, documentary-style biopics on celebrities with the BBC and doing other work in England. Not that well known here in America. Jean was like, I think you should do something on Ali. Now, you think everything in the world has been done on Muhammad Ali. Everything has not been done. The key here is that Claire was hooked up with two of Ali's daughters, Hannah and Miriam, nicknamed May. Two of the nicest women in the world. Now, I've had a chance to talk to Layla before in the past, as has Brian. And I have met Ali on several occasions over the years. But his daughters got involved with the project, and it turned out that for decades, Ali he would tape phone calls, he would tape his kids singing their ABCs, learning, just conversations with daddy. And I think it might have been a generational thing. My father did the same thing. But Ali turned all of these tapes over to Hannah as the gatekeeper and to carry on the legacy for the great-grandchildren and the grandchildren. As she was going through them, there was a lot of stuff there that was really endearing and heartwarming, and she turned over some of that to Claire. That became the thread and core of the documentary. So we actually hear, from start to finish, Muhammad Ali's voice, and watch the audio peaks and valleys as he's talking to his children or talking to presidents or talking to friends. And it frames the story for a man who was so articulate and so vocal. Now, due to Parkinson's, his voice is very weak. It's not easy for him to speak. But through this, he's as vital and as omnipresent now as ever. And interspersed, we meet athletes, we meet actors, we meet Angelo Dundee interviews, George Foreman, Mike Tyson. They all talk about how Ali impacted their life. Jim Brown, an ex-NFL footballer, Jim Brown, very, very interesting segment with him going back to Ali's anti-war stance and why he would not fight in Vietnam, and the political backlash, and how Jim Brown tried to get Ali to sit down and talk and help rally the black community around him during that time period. Some really interesting stuff, a lot of footage we've seen before, a lot of photographs we've seen before. But for me, one of the most telling things in this film was that Marvis Frazier, son of Joe, sat down to be interviewed for this film. Brian knows this, Trevor knows, some of our listeners know. I went to high school with the Fraziers. Marvis Frazier was a friend of my brother's. I knew Joe Frazier. And when you come from Philadelphia, you were an Ali fan. You were a Frazier fan. So I found it striking that Marvis Frazier would be sitting down to do an interview for a documentary on Muhammad Ali. So I asked Hannah and May about Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, and Marvis.
They're very sweet.
Yeah, they are.
They are. And Joe Frazier was, I was always nervous meeting him because I thought he would hate me because of the whole Ali Frazier thing. And he treated me like a daughter. I never forget, he came to see me do comedy, and I went to see him perform. We went to each other's shows in Vegas. And Jackie was there. And they're just the sweetest people.
I've never met any of them except for the son.
Yeah. They were so nice. I was so shocked. I was like, wow, they're nice.
And of course they're nice.
So, I mean, that was just such a joy. And the film does put to rest the rivalry. Marvis puts to rest the truth behind the rivalry and what happened. But I had a chance to ask the sisters, who are from different mothers, by the way. But one of the things key to Muhammad Ali was that family is family, and he always made sure all 9 of his children spent summers, vacations, they all knew each other, they would be together. Because
he was a good dad. That started coming out probably like 10 years ago.
Well, the girls talk about what they hope people will see about their dad in this documentary.
Parenting is so important to a child's life, and for this man to be that famous and that sought after and that busy and iconic, and to have this kind of intimacy and engagement with his children, you know how that could help people? And everyone I talked to said they cry. It's not about the boxing, it's not the social activism. You're connected with him because of your parent-child dynamic. And who would ever think that they can go to a Muhammad Ali movie and connect with him as a father or you as a child? That's what throws people. They come into this movie thinking, I'm going to see them, Muhammad Ali. And then they get touched, and there is an introspective of their life and their parents, and there goes the tears. I think that's what makes this film surprising, shocking, profound. They do not expect that when they go into that movie theater, that's what they're going to come out with.
And trust me, you may have thought you've seen everything in the world on Muhammad Ali, and you probably have seen most of it. But to see and hear these audio tapes and to hear about him as a dad and their memories is just priceless. So that is a great documentary to see this weekend.
Let me just say how important that is of documenting your life, and the moments that you can share with your family, and having those moments, whether or not they get into a film or not, to have those to always look back on is amazing, and I've found out a lot about that. You know that firsthand, Trevor, and we're going to talk about that. And leading up to you, though, we've got 2 impactful films. One is St. Vincent, starring Bill Murray. This could grab him an Oscar nomination. It is an Oscar-worthy performance as he plays the crotchety old Vincent, slob of the century. Melissa McCarthy, newly divorced, single mother with a child, moves in next door to him. Instant hate. But here she is. She has to work. She has a child, doesn't have money for daycare, and he ends up in Bill Murray's house. Bill Murray is, of course, Vincent. The young man character is Oliver, played by a newcomer on the horizon who, like Ed Oxenbloud, is not going to stay new too long. Jaden Lieberhart is amazing. He steals the film, steals the scenes with Bill Murray. This kid is the real deal. He goes toe-to-toe with a serial-comic drama master. Throughout the course of the film, as you see characters develop, Vincent suffers a stroke at one point. And this very hated man, through the eyes of Oliver, people see the good behind it. And Murray embraces the entire debilitation of a stroke and fighting back, from the speech to the walking to the movements to the hands. It's very difficult to watch him like that because you never think of him as being like that. It's just a testament to his skill.
Wonderful film. It just fills your heart. It warms you. And Melissa McCarthy, of whom I'm not a huge fan, her vulnerability and her sense of loss and honesty, being flustered as a divorced mom starting over. I mean, she really nailed this performance, and it wasn't through slapstick comedy, raunchy jokes. This was full-on acting. So, impressive performances, definitely.
She got out of her comfort zone.
She got out of her comfort zone, very much so. Then we've got...
You know what? Let's save this one.
Okay.
Let's go to Trevor.
Let's go to Trevor.
Oh, boy.
Oh, we're going to go to Trevor.
Throw it in the deep end.
We'll throw him in the deep end. Well, Trevor is here because Trevor has done a documentary called 1 in a Million, a CJD documentary. It has its world premiere next week at the Laughlin Film Festival. And let's give Charlie McNulty a big shout out because Charlie's the one that told you about the festival. This is a very personal and very passionate journey for you. I've been on the periphery of the journey since you started it. And it's been a thrill to watch you get to this point. First of all, tell everybody what CJD is.
CJD is Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is the most common form of prion disease. And just a basic thing on prion disease, it's a neurodegenerative brain disease. And what happened was in 1997, Stanley Prusiner, who won the Nobel Prize that year, developed this theory of misfolding proteins as being something that can cause harm. And instead of a bacteria or a virus or anything like that, that a misfolding protein can actually do damage and become a disease and actually kill. And that theory is then translated to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, because they have different proteins that misfold, but they work in a similar way. So it was a huge breakthrough. It's still a hot topic of debate of whether or not a protein can actually cause harm in your body like that. So it's really kind of cutting edge, and it's really there's been a lot of research and things developed in just the last 20 years that have like blown people out of the water in the scientific community. So it's a hard concept to understand because nobody's talked about this sort of thing before. And the thing that separates prion disease and specifically CJD, which is the umbrella for it, from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, is the speed at which it progresses. It's 100% fatal. There is no cure. There's nothing you can do about it once you get that diagnosis, and it's hard to get that diagnosis. So this is where we all take a little, this is deep, tough subject. So.
But this became a very personal journey for you when your mother was diagnosed with CJD.
Yeah, and this actually goes back to even before that, because my grandfather died in 1976, and for some reason, there was not much known about the disease back then, but they put it on his death certificate, and that was pretty shocking at the time. Nobody was really being diagnosed with it. No one knew that there were the genetic components of it at that point until my mom ended up, getting sick. We did the genetic test, found out that she carried it, and that's why she was going through what she did. You go through all these tests and you find nothing wrong because it's just so hard to diagnose. And, once we got they've made great strides in tracking the genetic forms of it, and they could find the marker in her DNA. And so once we had that test done, it was obvious that that's what it was. And so I lost her in 2013. And, what I started out doing was I just wanted to record moments because my mom's very camera shy. And so I just wanted to capture what was going on. And we thought, at first it was like, well, maybe we can send this somewhere and really get a good diagnosis or whatever. And it just turned out to be, my intimate moments with my mom that I got to share before I lost her. And that idea, spurred into creating a documentary of my journey, then now knowing it's a genetic disease that's a dominant gene, so that meant I have a 50-50 chance of getting it. Everyone in my family had a 50-50 chance. And, I set out on a journey to learn everything I could about it. And that's kind of what I put on video, because it's not on film.
So it's a documentary?
It's a documentary.
How long did it take to get funding to do this? Because obviously what's important for you.
I did it all myself.
Wow.
I did a little bit of crowdsource funding with Indiegogo, which...
And I have to say that every dollar that Trevor got through crowdsource funding, or that anybody contributed to this venture, you see every dollar on the screen with this documentary, as he travels back and forth across the country talking to the experts in the field, to neurobiologists, the CDC, the CJD Foundation leaders, and other victims and surviving family members.
How important, when you go to this film festival, is it next week?
It's next week, yeah.
Okay, this will be your first film festival going to, right?
My very first, yes.
What do you hope the audience takes out of this? Because obviously this is going to be important to get people to see this, because no one really knows about this, obviously.
Exactly. As soon as you say CJD, no one knows what you're talking about. And then you say what it actually stands for, and they're even more confused. So I think an understanding of this type of disease is the first step, and just bringing awareness to it. It's the tough part is that the disease, if I wanted to go for the real mass audience, I could go the easy scare tactic, because one form of it is mad cow disease. And everyone can go, oh, mad cow disease, oh, I get it. But that only accounts for really 1% of the cases that are out there. And you can get it through surgical procedures if you've been, something's been contaminated and stuff. But again, that's only 1%. The genetic form is only 10%. So you got still 80 plus, almost 90% are sporadic cases that they don't know why it happens. And that's the scary part. And so people have no knowledge going into this. And so my original intention was to get this information out to people that are newly affected, and so they can know what's going on and learn about it. And then it's like, well, I also have sort of a duty to get it out to the general public. Unfortunately, doctors barely study this going up, because it's rare. The reason the film is called 1 in a Million is that's the basic statistic of, the amount of cases that happen. And it's worldwide. It's all over the place. It's not limited to, first world countries, third world countries, Western, Eastern, across the globe. It's pretty standard. So it's been an interesting thing that it's not, there's not an easy environmental trace or anything like that, and that's why it's taken so long to really learn as much as they can about it. And so the 1 in a million is, I sort of debunk that because of the way the disease works, and because it's fatal. You really have a higher risk of getting it than 1 in a million. It's actually more like 1 in 10,000 or so, just the way that it works. So it's it was a lot to undertake to explain it, and try to explain it in less than 90 minutes.
One quick thing real quick. Talk about crowdfunding, raising that money. How tough was that? That's really important, obviously.
Yeah, well, I had to kind of weigh the two different main websites that are out there, and so I went with Indiegogo. I asked for a small amount. I didn't go for the moon, because it was really about, I had traveled to Canada and New York and Boston and Atlanta to just talk to experts, Texas. So really it was to help get me places, because I didn't have a crew. It wasn't anybody else. It was just me. And so, I set out a small goal of $5,000 and put it out there, did a video to explain what I was doing. And, I think it touched people's hearts to know that this was sort of a personal journey, and that I'm not just making, some goofy slapstick comedy, to try to profit, because ultimately this is all about gaining awareness and possible research money and all those things. I'm not in it to get rich off a movie. This is not even close to that. It's about raising awareness and telling all the stories of the people, and the other key component has been Facebook and the Facebook groups that people have been able to come together, and this is where social media is actually positive, that you can find a community that knows what you're going through. Because, again, you say CJD and nobody has any idea what you're talking about, but you have a group of people that know exactly what you're talking about. And so you can cry and vent and say all these things and ask the questions, and people can help tell you, and if they don't know, they can point you to people that can. You know, there's a limited true group of people that have the proper information, because there's so much misinformation, especially stemming from the whole mad cow, you know, aspect of it. And that's what, you know, so many people fear. But the mad cow aspect is very important too, because if we don't guard against that version of it and protect our meat sources and understand what's in our food, things like this can happen. You can have a fatal brain disease just from eating a steak.
Give us the social media links real quick.
If on Facebook there's CJD awareness. I have actually a page for the movie, which is CJD documentary on Facebook. It's really pretty basic. The biggest, you know, thing that the group that really helps is the CJD Foundation, which is cjdfoundation.org, and they've been amazing. They've only been in existence for about 12 years, and they just know and they get it, and they have a helpline that is on 24/7.
And that's one thing that I found interesting is that Florence, who's the head of the foundation, calls after hours go to their cell phones. So these people are available 24 hours.
That's good.
And that's something you don't hear about with any foundation or organization. So, you know, there is so much great stuff that you brought and put into this documentary to open up the eyes of everybody, Trev.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
I appreciate that. And I've had so much help. I've had, you know, people just pitch in all over the place. I had Soundfile do the music for me, and they're like, if you get a distribution deal, you know, we'll figure out money for it, but until then, here's a free library of music. You know, I've had people do transcription, Nicole Yawn. My family has been incredible. My Aunt Pat is listening right now, so I'm supposed to give her a shout out to her. And any other family members that might be out there. But, you know, and now I have a new family. I have a CJD family, and we're so tightly knit through this disease, because, you know, you feel so alone in that first moment when you get that diagnosis and you realize what that is, because, you know, sort of the tagline that I took away from it, that I got from one of the doctors that I deal with, is, you know, once you get the diagnosis of prion disease, you have a death sentence, because there are no treatments, there are no cures. So it's so important to get the research done and move forward. And honestly, the research on prion disease is going to help greatly with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, because it's easier to study prion disease than it is those, because of the speed and the rapidity at which it happens. And unfortunately, this is the part where it's a little bit controversial, but mice models really work. So you're dealing with animal testing, but, you know, it's sometimes when it's effective, it makes a lot more sense than when you're doing stuff that's not effective.
And it's called Cure CJD.
Well, the name is 1 in a Million. That's the name of the movie, the documentary.
Kayla, why are you here?
Yeah.
Dancing.
Oh, wow.
It's tough house. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about that.
Switch over to the and more section of the movies and more.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for asking me to come in today. I'm here because I met you, Brian, on set almost 2 months ago, I think, from a
video shoot.
A video shoot, energy drink commercial shoot.
And who directed it?
Oh, wow.
Anthony Seifert from Sharknado.
Definitely. Who was so funny to work with. He's great. He had so much. I think he had more energy than all of the dancers on that set, which is a lot to say.
No, I didn't care anything about any of that stuff like that, but I saw all of a sudden I saw these dancers that were really, really good dancers. Mm-hmm. And I was walking over there just to say hi to Anthony after the show, and I'm like, I saw 3 dancers, and I picked them out, and you were one of them.
Thank you.
Tell a story after that.
The story is we started talking. We started sharing our stories, really. And that's when you found out who I was, where I'm from, what I stand for, and what I want to accomplish really in my life. So I really appreciate that you believe in me that way, because especially as an entertainer in LA, you get those preconceptions of what life should be like, what people should think of you, what you think people will think of you, all those things.
And the thing that I like is that you're not flaky. You're reliable.
Oh, thank you.
You return phone calls, and we all know what that's like, and that's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, it's also because I've also been there. I've also been on the other side where I've tried to contact people, I've tried to set up projects, and I understand how important it is. Even if you're not interested in a project or in a meeting, people appreciate honesty. You can tell them, sorry, I'm not interested, but at least do that phone call, or at least call them or email them back and say, sorry, I'm not interested, and then they can move forward. So somebody like you, don't keep waiting for that phone call or keep calling, and you're wasting your time, they're wasting their time, stuff like that. So I'm a big believer in the business of the entertainment business.
Talk about my Adidas.
Well, today I'm celebrating because I'm wearing my Adidas shoes right now. I had an article just launched
Great
on...
shoes, by the way.
Fantastic. Should I show you? If I can get my leg up that high. Yay! My hashtag MyGirls is it's not a campaign, but something started by Adidas women that celebrate the young females in this generation that are not only athletes but trying to be a little, stand out, do something a little bit out of the ordinary. So 2 years ago, I won a competition with Adidas that got me to LA. I was able to dance with Katy Perry's choreographers, had the whole Adidas experience, and I knew that I had to be in LA. I've already lived in Hong Kong and in London, and I'm from Belgium originally, so I was in Belgium at the time, and I knew I had to be in LA to figure it out, to try and see what I could do with my life. Didn't really have a master plan, but have dreams and goals of what I want to achieve. Exactly a year since that competition, I was here, and that was last year, and that was exactly a year ago, a few weeks ago, when I celebrated my 1-year anniversary. So they did a follow-up interview to see what I've done since then and how I've pushed myself, and the article is fantastic because it's mostly quotes that I said that I even forgot that I even said that. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm smarter than I thought I was. And they launched it today with the photo shoot that we did back in April. And it's fantastic. I'm starting to, I want to encourage all the dancers that are out there that don't know what to do or are kind of stuck and lost, even performers, entertainers, even young kids that don't know, that are kind of struggling about what to do and kind of feel stuck. Then I hope that, I'd like to kind of not be a role model, but kind of for them to ask me questions, be open. I'm here. Social media, talk to me. I'm more than happy to help out. I'll email you back. I'll call you back.
That's a big thing because it's a problem. Talk about Universal.
Oh, yeah. Right now I'm currently working at Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights. That is just a whirlwind in itself. That's when I first found out about Dracula Untold, which was fantastic. Because I got to see the makeup before I got to see the stage of the maze, which getting me very excited to see the film. And that's just, I think Universal hired just over 600 people just for the Halloween season. We already started halfway through September, so Halloween's apparently starting in the summer.
Right.
4th of July, and it's Halloween.
Exactly. It was 100 degrees during the day. Well, 40 Celsius for me. I'm still thinking in Celsius. And it's fantastic. I'm in the Dusk Till Dawn maze. I'm one of the culebras who try to lure men to our club and try to eat them. Yeah. So it's fantastic because
Trevor's signing up.
I'll see you tonight, right? And it's fantastic.
And quickly give your social media, Instagram, because you're big on this, and your Belgian friends want to know this.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You got a huge following.
Thank you. My Twitter and Instagram, all the same. It's at KKJans or KKJANS. My full name on Facebook, I also have an artist page. It's Kayla Janssen, Janssen. I'm here. If you guys want to ask me any questions about, not that I know a lot about the entertainment industry, but what I know about life, and apparently I know a lot about life.
But you have traveled
in my 27
that's a very,
years.
very important thing.
Yes, yeah, and I love travel, and that's very much important to me, is that I try to incorporate life lessons within my dance, from traveling, from being let down, from whatever.
And you can get to one more, and then we got to ask you guys your favorite films.
Oh dear.
We got to get one more in.
One more, and we actually have an audio clip for it. You're Not You. We're talking about diseases, about CJD, ALS, Parkinson's, Ali with Parkinson's. You're Not You. Director George Wolfe. He's got Tonys. He's got Emmys. The man behind Jelly's Last Jam, Angels in America. He now takes a script by Shauna Fest. who did Country Strong, and brings us You're Not You. Hilary Swank as upper-class, well-to-do woman stricken down in her prime with ALS. She should walk away with the Oscar for this performance. Hilary Swank is that strong, but helping make her performance that strong as we see the physical declination and denigration of the condition of what ALS ravages on her body is the friendship that develops through with Emmy Rossum's character. This is an Emmy Rossum we haven't seen. Raw, gritty. She is just so full of life. Amazing journey of two women that as the story progresses, we find out are two sides, each side of a coin.
I'm just going to say I've seen a lot of her on Shameless.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So.
Here he goes.
She's
Here
fantastic.
he goes. But we got a clip here of George Wolfe talking about the coming together of You're Not You.
The script came, and as I said, the thing which I was really fascinated was the story was to see this incredibly emotional, intimate relationship between two women who form a connection that is deeper and more complicated than any of the other relationships in their lives. Mm-hmm. And I was sort of intrigued by it. I was intrigued by that, and I was intrigued by the potency and the power of that. I just wanted to explore and live in that world. I just wanted to live in that world. And Hillary was already involved, so I said, "Oh, okay, that's Hillary was attached to the project." And then went through audition process, and Emmy came in, and it was dazzling. And then you never know. And then when all of a sudden the first day of working, and the two of them were working, I went, "Oh, okay. This is it." They as actors, they're brilliantly skilled, and they complement each other in a very exciting and very complicated way. And so it was just the rigor of that. It became less daunting, and actually in some incredibly strange way more fun.
We ran out of time. That's how quick things go.
Wow.
Quickly, give me your favorite movie of all time, off the top of your head.
Since I'm a Chicago boy, it's Blues Brothers, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, kind of the way I go. I'm a Kelly guy.
Singing in the Rain. Keep it classy. Yeah.
We talked about a lot of stuff. You know what?
Right.
I got to mention Whiplash. I like this movie. Miles Teller.
Yeah, my boy Miles.
Yes, we like this. This is Brian Sebastian. You are listening to Movie Reviews and More. Thank you, Kayla, for coming on. We're going to have you back. We got to have you back after you've come back from a film festival.
I would love to
and tell us what your experience is like. Being that first-time film director out there. Doing that.
Thank you.
I won't be here next week. I'll be at Disney doing interviews and covering the press day for the upcoming Big Hero 6, but I'll be back on the 24th, and we have director David Spaltro calling in that day.
We got a lot of, we got an all-female show next week, which is, okay. Okay, all women show next week. It'll be interesting. We're going to talk about other movies coming up and books and things like that. This is Brian Sebastian. Thank you, guys. That's a really important movie, once in a million.
I hope it reached some people out there. So,
thank you. See you next week.